just a brief 5 minutes about Valu8. I'm one of two founders and CEO of Valu8. We've been around for, I would say, 8-9 years, almost 10 years now, focusing on the Nordics, UK, and Germany and DACH. Very much focused on for the moment. We are a deal sourcing platform, SaaS platform for focusing on private company data. Customer groups are private equity, M&A, strategy, corporate M&A. We work with colleagues in the Nordics, but the accountancy firms, transaction departments, etc. And I think when I hear what I've heard today about the role we play in sourcing, I fully agree with you guys that it's an 80-20 analysis. We cover 75 million European companies in our platform, so we aggregate a lot of data, and we also, in the past 5 years, add on a lot of unstructured data to that with new technology when needed. But I think the key is that new technology, NLP, Kaisa's area, it's super interesting and adds a lot of new possibilities for us, and it's actually in the platform, it's usable today. But it's a blended solution, is everything. It's automation, the aggregation of structured data in itself, just time-saving connections of data. And when we do that cross-border over different countries with the language barriers, and when we start getting that together, it becomes a very, I would say, valuable 80-20 database. So I think the use case for us as a provider is it's in the sector analysis. When we cover that, you can see all the players in the sector. You get a good understanding of the sector scope. You can filter down to the long list, and even maybe down to the short list sometimes. But somewhere along that line, the professional, the M&A professional, that takes over and do the real short list, the real good list, etc. And then obviously getting down to the details, sometimes getting a preliminary analysis of the owner, the networks around the company, which is very time-saving. So you have a lot of data to work with in Valu8. I think worth mentioning as well, we focus a lot on the screening elements. So I think we have more than almost 1,000 different filter options in the platform, which is easy to choose and pick for. So one example is if you want to find a generation shift company in a certain sector, in a certain region of Germany, you can easily choose those filters and then filter down. And then you probably ask yourself, is it perfect? And it's not perfect, it depends on the data we have. So we put a lot of focus on the data quality. It's nothing really tech about that, it's about good data, good providers. And then when we add on the new type of data we add, again, it's about the quality of that data, as Kaisa talked about yesterday. So when you get good data, I would say the algorithms and the NLPs is already here. But if the data is not good, the outcome will not be good either. So that's where we are now. And just to make it more interesting, talking about new technology, I think some areas we touched on yesterday is we put a lot of focus on sector analysis, getting new keywords. If you work with this, you know that a traditional sector code works really well for a traditional industry. Why change the wheel? It works not good for a dentist operation, but if you want to go into a company like ourselves, we don't mention anywhere that we are a SaaS company, but our algorithm can actually understand that we are a SaaS company by extracting the text we have on the web page and then interpretate that text. So it really adds value in that sense. And I think another interesting area we have in the platform today is the similarity scoring algorithm we use. So when you have a company, we look at all the text masses of a company, and we measure how much distance the text, basically the business descriptions are towards each other. And given that, you would get a pretty decent list of similar companies, peer companies, buy and build companies for private equity. You can do that to the portfolio companies of private equity, and you get a pretty good universe around that company. So is it perfect? That new technology, I would say, out of 20 companies, maybe 6 or 7 are actually really good. And then you get a noise of maybe 10 companies. But with that said, still you find 5 to 10 companies you wouldn't have been able to find otherwise. So I think managing expectations, that's a really key value add of new technology. And given the fact that we work with millions of companies in the private company data sector. So I think that's really interesting. And just finally as well, mentioning a latest product we have in the platform. It's a network function, which Kajsa is really involved in. It's looking at all the people surrounding or companies surrounding a company and looking at the connections, the ownership connections, the board connections, the beneficial owner connections, etc. And with new algorithms talking about yesterday, we can find the key influences surrounding a company, not only in the first layer, the obvious one, the key owner, but also in the second layer. And as you visualize that, and you can also see very easily with the eye where the different hubs are. You can see that here are the, something's going on around this company. That's really interesting. So I think that's an interesting topic, speaking about new technology in the platform. But again, coming back to the value add of us is, it's a tool for the 80-20 analysis, combining traditional technology, automation, as you mentioned, and also now the cutting edge technology. So, more spontaneous. That's pretty much a short intro of Valu8.
Absolutely. So this is it's pretty interesting, and I know that this is quite far. You can barely see what it says, but essentially the blue dots are companies, and then all the orange dots are individuals. So this is actually a graph of Valu8 and all of the board members, owners, etc., and also their assignments and kind of like their. You can think of it as friends of friends, if you will. So kind of looking at a bit of the bigger picture. So here, for example, you have lots of blue dots. It means that there's essentially very few individuals owning a lot of companies together. And this is actually done. I'm sure you've heard of the Panama Papers. This is actually done using the same technology. So we're using a graph database called Neo4j, and we have modeled, I think, over 1 million Swedish individuals, actually. We're currently only doing this for Sweden. It's still in the research phase. We are going to expand this to Nordics very, very soon. But still exploring. I think it's very, very promising. So I think that we will probably release this fairly soon. But yeah, essentially we have over 1 million Swedish individuals in this network, and you can see the ownership and who they are connected to, and kind of get broader perspective of key influencers in an area, for example. Do you have anything to add?
I want to add that I think the graph technology, using that in the platform, is actually you can use it in a live way, which is pretty cool as well. But then you can see in the second layer from the middle dot there is a cluster of companies. So you wouldn't see that cluster by looking at the key owners but with this just graph, even with your eye, you can easily zoom in on that cluster and see that. So that's a pretty cool thing. And I think you can also use this as we're doing for sectors. So if you take the real estate sector or whatever sector you want to take, we apply this to the keywords or even the NAC codes. Why not, if they are good enough? And then you would easily get the same kind of influences around the sector. And given the amount of companies in the sector, that would be pretty good. So there's a lot of possibilities with this. I'm saying as well that even though this is a little bit on the R&D stage still, UK and Germany are up next as well. And while it's tougher to get some of the data in Germany than for example, in UK and Nordics, I think the individuals data, the ownership data is pretty good in Germany still, so we will be able to do this as well in Germany. Probably not in Switzerland, but in Germany. One of few cutting edge technology within Valu8. But with that said, I think it's also important to say, as other speakers said today, that a lot of the value add is actually, pure filtering on number of employees and all that, having good data and so not getting only lost in this new technology. It's a blend, I think, and also back to the role we have. It's 80-20 tool for professionals to save time and we do the legwork basically, I would say.
I think it's all kind of. I've heard a lot of people talking about tools, and I think this is just another tool.
Yeah.
I think it's the same with filters. They are, a tool that is great for some things. This is a tool that's great for other things.
Yeah.
And I think that's a nice way of seeing it, just options. I was talking about mentioning like AI or NLP is a bit like a calculator. It's just a tool. And you would never say that the calculator is doing my job for me. but you're actually using the calculator. And I think that it's quite similar in this case.